Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sandra. I know it's been a minute since I made a video. It's not because I haven't filmed anything. I filmed a lot in August. I just haven't edited and uploaded it, so I'm really sorry. The last video that you saw was my little free library vlog, which I believe was the very beginning of August. I am sorry for that delay. Today, however, we're going to do my August wrap-up, and to be honest, I want to try to avoid editing as much as possible so I can just get this up for you guys. So if there are awkward spaces or anything, please bear with me. I'm doing the best I can, but I really don't want to have to edit too much. Review. August was kind of a hit or miss, up and down reading month. I had some really great reads, and then I had some not so great reads in DNFs. It was a very all or nothing kind of month. You can also probably tell if I shift this over just a little bit. I read a lot, and one of those books is definitely a DNF because if you've been around on my channel, you know that once I've read a book, I turn it around on my shelf so I can just kind of see the visual of how many books I've read. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into actually talking about the books. First of all, my devotions. I am continuing to read Jesus Calling and where is it? Gospel-Centered Kids Ministry. That is hiding right here. I will be continuing those until I finish them, this one at the end of the year and the other one whenever it finishes. For my 12 in 2022, I still have not read the 15 Fundamental Laws of De-Escalation, and I did start reading the 10,000 Words of January, but unfortunately DNF'd this. Sorry. If you love that book, I'm sorry. I did not like it, just the writing style. I was not engaged with it. I love the concept, but the execution was just not it for me. I gave it 1 star because I did read a good bit of it, but it just was not what I was hoping it would be, unfortunately. So, I am moving on to Bronte Long. It's no longer Bronte Long. These books were months and months and months ago. I've not gotten back to Jane Eyre. I've not gotten to Agnes Grey. So for the month of September, I am just nixing that. I'm not putting it on my TBR. It's just not happening right now. I love Jane Eyre. I look forward to continuing my reread, but it's just not happening right now. So there's that. So you may be aware that August was the Polarthon fishing tournament. Basically, every time you read 100 pages, you caught a fish for the polar bears, of course. I was not personally giving money to the organization that Jade had picked, but I know other people were. I know she was. For me, it was just kind of like a fun way to keep track of how many pages I read. I think I ended up reading about 2,200 pages, something like that. I lost track of my fish counter, but that's okay. For Polarthon, I read my favorite book of the month, so kind of silly to start with this, but let's just go ahead and get into it. Come here, favorite book. That book is none other than A Storm of Ice and Stars. We love the cover. I was engaged in this story from page 1, which is awesome because this is not a continuation of a series. It is the companion novel to A Shiver of Snow and Sky, which I also loved. The difference is A Shiver of Snow and Sky took me about 100 pages to get into, whereas this one I was hooked from the very beginning. And then when I got to the end where it kind of connects the two stories, when I tell you I had chills when I realized what the connection was, I'm not kidding you. It was like I was reading and then it just dawned on me what they were talking about from that first, oh my gosh, it was incredible. I was not anticipating that. That's not, I just thought it was going to be, oh man. Anyway, I can't really talk about it without spoiling it, but if you know, you know. And if you don't know, then you need to read the books. But oh my gosh, this was my favorite read of the month. It's my Polarthon specific, chill vibes kind of book. And I honestly think this could be my favorite read of 2022. Definitely up there with, what is that book called that I loved? Well, apparently I didn't love it that much because I can't remember the things we cannot say. Sorry about that. I couldn't remember the title, but I loved that book. I really do think that this could be my favorite of 2022. Just so unexpectedly wonderful. I thought it would be good. I just didn't know it would be this good. And I love that I got this for Christmas last year. I love that it was a gift. I just love everything about it. Makes my heart so happy. This was definitely a 5-star read, in case that's not obvious to you. Like, this was 5 stars in the truest definition of the word. Honestly, I could give it 10 stars. Love this book so much. Highly recommend that you check out this series or companion novels if you have not already. And I do recommend reading A Shiver of Snow and Sky first before this one, but you can read this one first and then read that one and kind of understand what's going on. Still, it just wouldn't be as impactful, I guess, as reading it the other way around. That's my 2 cents on this amazing book. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the books that I had chosen for my TBR game. The first one that I read, well, it's not really in order of when I read them. It's the ones that I chose from the game. So the first one that I chose was Next Generation Leader. It is turned around. I did read this and I gave it 5 stars. It's just very practical, awesome, very motivating, very simple and quick to read. Highly recommend this for anybody who's in any kind of leadership position. It just changes the way that you think about things and teaches you how to not only be a better leader yourself, but how to train other people to be leaders. Love it. 5 stars. Next book, Belle's Library. Another 5-star because I'm obsessed with this book. It is just the cutest little thing. It's based off Beauty and the Beast, as you can tell. Such an adorable cover. Like, I had read a lot of this before and then I just reread it this month. But basically, on one side of each page, it has a literary quote from different literature books. And then on this side, it's almost as if it's Belle's diary, and it's usually very inspiring, motivating quotes. I love it so much. Obviously, there are cute illustrations with every quote. It's just the most precious thing. I highly recommend this if you can get your hands on it. Has a cute little bookmark. I'm in love with this. I have no idea how much it cost me, but it's just the most precious. So 5 stars, of course, for this book. The next book on my list and that I chose in my TBR game is The Nanny, which is over here. Is this it? There it is. Okay. The Nanny by Gilly Macmillan. And I gave this 4.5 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star for me, but very intriguing and engaging throughout the whole book. There were some parts where I was wanting it to move a little bit faster. But dang, this book is very much not what I expected it to be. I was hoping that I would be able to relate more to it because I was a nanny, but I was not this kind of nanny. We'll just put it that way. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I can't relate to the nanny, but I could relate to the mom in this. I think it was the kid who grows up and becomes the mom. I don't know how to explain that. If you read this book, you'll know what I mean. Jocelyn, aka Jo, that's the character that I'm talking about. But I did really like this, and it's a British setting. I don't know, it's just I liked it. It wasn't my favorite read of the month, but it was really, really good. Definitely up there, top 3. We like this. The next book on my list is 1,000 Gifts by Ann Voskamp. As you can tell, I have not read this. And to be honest, I'm torn if I want to read it. I don't love the writing style. The first page, I could have lived my whole life without ever reading. It was very cringy to me, and I'm so sorry to say that. It's just very poetic, and I didn't need that information in my brain that feels like it's going to be there forever and ever. Anyway, I'm not fully engaged in this. In fact, I only read 1 chapter, but I'm not sure. I think I'm going to roll this over and eventually try to finish it, or at least give it a fair chance, but I didn't get back to it in August, and I don't know. I'm torn. I'll probably try to roll it over, give it another chance, but I didn't like chapter 1, so. But I do really want to read it because it's very much like gratitude and thankfulness, and that's a very valuable thing to read about, but I don't know. We'll see. The next book is this one that's turned over, meaning I did not finish it, but as you can see, it was with all of the books that I did finish, and that is for the simple fact that I DNF'd this. I read precisely 100 pages. And although the story was interesting, it wasn't interesting enough for me to continue reading, considering the language and just like the way that they were talking about like religion and God. And as a Christian, I just couldn't deal with it. It wasn't enough for me to like stay with the story, so I just DNF'd it. Plus it's a long one. It's like 400 pages. I was only a quarter of the way through and I was just like, I cannot go through this entire book. Just not for me. I will put that in a little free library and get something else. Next book was Studies in the Sermon on the Mount. This is fantastic and definitely something I want to come back to. At first I was thinking this may be an unhaul, but I really got into it and I definitely would like to reread it over my life, really. I think that there's a lot of wisdom and just good stuff in here. Great for devotions or just like Bible study, all that good stuff. Gave it 5 stars, of course, but really it was definitely 5-star material. And I definitely am glad that I read it. This was actually what I used for Magical Readathon for the oldest book on your TBR, because I got this for, I believe it was high school graduation, and that means that it was the book that I've had the longest that I'd never read. So, finally read it, feeling very accomplished about that. It also has such a pretty cover, which I never really realized, but I love that. And I do plan to come back to that in the future. So then the next one, I'm looking down at my notes also. I'm not just like pulling this out of thin air. The next book is The Bookish Life of Nina Hill. As you could see, I read it. I gave this 2.5 stars. It was fine. I'm glad that I read it. I love the cover. Like, I'm obsessed with this cover. I really want to keep it just because of that, but I'm actually going to unhaul it just because the plot really fell flat for me. I feel like there were 3 different plot lines and nothing was really explored fully. It just kind of was like she had these family dynamics, her bookish bookstore people life, and then there was something else. Oh, of course, the relationship, and then she's part of this like quiz bowl type team. All these different plot lines, and it should have like come together somehow, which I guess it sort of did, but just not in the way that I was hoping. Really, the only thing that I liked about this book is Nina herself. I feel like if it was a book that was like basically her diary, I would love it because I loved her sense of humor and the relationship / love interest. Not really a relationship. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. You'll have to read it, figure it out for yourself. But like, I liked her and her love interest situation, the back and forth there. But other than that, it was just kind of blah. Like, sometimes I didn't even really know what the story was talking about, and it's not like a hard read at all. Like, it's very simple, but it just was not my favorite. 2.5 stars. Glad I read it, and I know some people love this, but it just was not it for me. The last book of my TBR game was Girl Meets Change, which is right here. I have continued this, but I have not finished it. I do plan to keep reading it. I'm going to roll it over, even though I would like to continue reading it in September. I guess it's possible I could try to work it into Bookoplathon or my TBR game for this month, but I don't want to be too repetitive, so we'll see about that. But I do like this. I think it's going to be a really good read. Some parts I'm not as on the same page with, but I do want to finish it and get through that. Just doesn't have a rating yet. All right, let me turn the page in my notebook and we'll see what's next. Hearts Divided, my first rollover that I chose during my TBR video. Hearts Divided by these 3 authors. So this is basically 3 separate stories by 3 separate authors following some of the same main characters. It's basically these 2 grandmothers writing back and forth about their granddaughters' love lives, which sounds great. And then the granddaughters are like getting love advice from their grandmothers. It sounds great, but it just also kind of fell flat for me. I gave this also 2.5 stars. I liked some of it. I think what I said in my reading sprints was it had cute moments, cringe moments and boring moments. So it just kind of like went back and forth between the three stories. I think the one that I liked the best was the last one, and there are moments that like stick in my head as like, that was really good. And then there are others that were just really cringy or just plain boring. I was zoning out so bad when I was reading one of them. Anyway, not 100% for me, but glad I read it. It's such a cute little book. Like, I really love that cover, but I am going to unhaul this, put it back in a little free library. It'll be great, but that was 2.5 stars. So then the next book that I read is The Unhoneymooners. What did I read this for in Magical Readathon? Book on someone's worst list that you might like. Well, I thought I would like it, and I guess it was okay. I liked the story itself. I just didn't really like their, I don't know, the relationship seemed a little bit contrived, obviously. I mean, considering the circumstances, it just, there were parts that I could have lived without. And to be honest, I don't really remember it that much because I read it at the beginning of the month, so I can't really talk too much about it. All I really remember is I like the characters as people, and I do like root for them in their relationship. I just didn't love the book, which is fine. I gave it 3.75 stars, which is not a horrible rating. I mean, that's pretty average, but it wasn't what all I was hoping it would be. But that's okay. It worked for Magical Readathon. I successfully completed my Magical Readathon classes, so we're all good on that front, which I probably should go through and tell you what I read for Magical Readathon. Totally forgot about that, but that's okay. I totally forgot to tell you what exactly I read for Magical Readathon, so let me do that real fast. It was 5 books. Just to give you a little bit of a reminder, my character is Avery. She is a healer. She was a novice. I do believe that now she might be moving on to intermediate. Is that the next level? I don't remember. I think that might be the end of her novice year, though. Fingers crossed. We'll see. But she is an archivist. She was an assistant. She'll probably still be an assistant. I don't know. I need to look into all that. But anyway, moving on. Had 5 classes required. Elemental Studies, Element of Water was a book that, start a book with a drink. And I not only had a drink when I, like a tea or something. It's not that scandalous. And I had like a summary drink whenever I was reading Belle's library. And also, even if that's not what it means, little teapot, Mrs. Potts. So this counted for that. For Alchemy, Basics of Poison, book on somebody's worst list that you might like. The Unhoneymooners, already told you this. We're good. For Alchemy, Poison, Acidic Amber, read an orange book. I used The Bookish Life of Nina Hill. I know this is kind of more yellowy, but she has orange hair, so I feel like it counts. I counted it. That's what I used for that. For Restoration, Object Restoration, single object as the focus of the cover. I read Next Generation Leader, and I counted this little power button as the single object. For Restoration, Enchanted Scroll Mending, one of the oldest on my TBR. I believe I told you this as well. Studies in the Sermon on the Mount. I also appreciate, sorry, that sounded weird, but I appreciate the pun that it's like Enchanted Scroll Mending, kind of like the Bible scrolls. I don't know. I appreciated it. Anyway, last one was Restoration, Urgent Battle Care. I appreciate this one too. Read a book in 1 or 2 sittings, and it was A Storm of Ice and Stars. I just loved my Magical Readathon experience this time around. These were the books that I read, and I just feel so successful having finished my character's autumn equinox semester. And I do believe that that's the end of her novice year, which is so cool. So we'll see what's to come in the spring. Anyway, that's all. Cutting back into the outro. 2 more books. When I finished Hearts Divided, I drew my next rollover book from my rollover bag, and I ended up with The Great Divorce. This was literally 2 days ago, so I've not gotten to read this, and it is going to be a book that I roll over quite literally into my September TBR, so I'll be reading this in September. Then the very last book is actually a box. I got myself the Blind Dates Bookshop box for, this is the birthday box. I did film the first half of my reading experience with this book, so hopefully I'll finish filming that and I'll kind of show you how that went. My foot's asleep. I'm sorry, I'm like stalling. That feels really uncomfortable. Anyway, the book is Synapse by Stephen James, and I'm really liking this book. It's like a Christian fiction thriller all about how they're in this world. It's in the future. It's our world, but in the future. And basically people have these almost like robots that look like people called artificials. And this main character was always against these artificials because of something that happened to her parents. But in this story, she ends up being gifted an artificial. And I'm currently in the point in time where she's getting to know this artificial, and it may not be the worst thing for her. And so it's kind of like, right now, a change of heart. Of course, I don't know what's going to happen because I'm only that far in, but I'm enjoying this. It just is very thought-provoking, and so it's taking me a little bit of time to get through. It's not something that I'll like just zoom through in a day or anything like that. I'm definitely trying to take my time and enjoy it, so I might continue this in September. Actually, I probably will. I will probably not put this in my rollovers bag. Probably will continue it in September. So, there's that. I'll leave those out. Oh, one last book that was not on my notebook pages, because this was from July, not August. The Sound of Music story I did finish, which was a July TBR pick. I liked it. I didn't love it. I loved the background of like the characters. I found that very interesting, the characters from the movie, and just like learning about who they were as people, how they got their roles, like what they thought of The Sound of Music even years later. That was very interesting. I think it could have been a little bit shorter. It was very, 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 very detailed. And I don't think I needed to know about every single person that was involved in making the movie. But it definitely was interesting. Like, if you like the behind the scenes of movies or you love The Sound of Music, I would recommend this. It wasn't my favorite read, but it was really good. What did I rate this? It was somewhere in here. Sorry, I have to look for it. It's missing. Sound of Music story. 3.5. That looks right. 3.5 stars. And that was everything. So, of the books that actually were my TBR for July, this was them. I read most of them with the exception of 2 that I DNF'd and 2 that I haven't finished. I think I did pretty good. What do you guys think? How did your August reading go? I hope it went really well. It's getting spookily? I don't think that's a word. It's getting slightly dark out here, but I'm kind of liking the spooky vibes back there with the lights on my bed. Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I am going to go ahead and go film my TBR game because that is the entire reason that I film these wrap-ups, so that I can motivate myself. Once I finish filming the wrap-up, I get to play my TBR game. So that's what I'm going to go do, and I'm super excited because this month I am doing Book-Oplathon, my TBR game, and the Upside Down Readathon, which I'm so excited about. Although today I found out that it's only 1 week long. I thought it was the whole month, but that's okay because it's still Stranger Things themed, and I just think that that's so creative and fun, and I'm so excited about it. But let's go get into that TBR game. Well, I'm going to get into it. You'll have to stay tuned. Be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. Give this video a like if you liked it, and comment below what your favorite read in August was, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!